Just as he was about to enter, she halted him with a soft plea, admitting her desire to spend a tad more time with him. He turned, finding her longing for an extension of their moment. Inside, chairs were arranged for two. Welcoming him was none other than Seraphine, the high-ranking priestess of the Holy See. She casually swung a leg over the chair and beckoned Ceres to join her. She began, Azathoth's blood could amplify monsters but dissolve humans instantly. Pausing, he hesitated yet gave his consent for a frank conversation. To his surprise, she knew about the poison coursing through him, leaving him speechless. Somehow, his body had fused with it, though it was lethally corrosive to him. Ceres nodded in recognition of her profound comprehension of the poison. Before he could utter a word, she placed her foot upon his mouth, admonishing him not to interrupt. He was left stunned once more. She declared that if monsters were to ingest his blood, it could lead to a disaster of epic proportions. To prevent such calamity, she had decided to consume him herself. Ceres recoils in astonishment, questioning if she intends to devour him given their shared humanity. His eyes bulge as he beholds her levitate, monstrous appendages emerging from her form. She proclaims her allegiance to humanity, asserting that for the sake of its future, she must ingest him. With a will to survive, Ceres marks Ceres as his objective. He chooses one from the deck of flashing cards presented. The Angel of Bliss gloves adorns him, triggering a shockwave, and he discerns that striking the precise spot will unleash his ultimate ability. Ceres stands bewildered, a questioning mark hovering above her head as she gazes upon Seraphina. The latter reveals the pink fragment of Azathoth, stating it's the sole power to sustain life in this realm. Undeterred, she consumes the fragment and energy courses through her. As the potency escalates, her veins distend and twist into grotesque orifices. Those with negative thoughts or defiance face consumption and purification, enslaved by her rules called holoki. In her mind's eye, Seraphina envisions a world where she devours Ceres, harnessing his energy to conquer every human metropolis. Within her consciousness, Seraphina revels in the newfound power, and Ceres watches, stunned, as even her veins morph into orifices. With a golden-hued glove aloft, he intensifies the light as his resolve swells. He rejects becoming her repast. Instead, it feels like subjugation. Ceres' fury escalates. She dreams of a world void of wickedness and corruption. Seraphina flashes a smug grin, amused by Ceres' resistance. It seems she finds delight in the idea that he dares resist while standing within her grasp. Her veins whip out like lashes, igniting combat instantly. He taps one lightly to gauge their sensitivity, but his evasion is swift as he trusts his instincts. As they collide, he discerns that the vein-like attacks are an extension of her. The outcome disappoints him, barely registering on the scale. He clutches his golden glove tighter, eager to test its might. Even then, he merely scratches the surface. More vein assaults rain down, but Ceres evades them with his glove's abilities. A single % charge isn't sufficient. He needs to find a more vulnerable spot. At the same time, Seraphina's anti-veins retract inward, drawing Ceres closer and elevating him until they stand eye to eye. Her gaze turns icy as she ponders where to begin consuming him. She notices the blood trickling from his shoulder and shows a hint of interest. Leaning in, she begins to sip it. A shudder races through Ceres, his revulsion evident on his face. Savoring the thought, she muses about the potent taste, reminiscent of Azathoth's, yet distinctly his. Enraged by her blood draining, Ceres swells with power, a monstrous grin tugging at her lips. Her energy surges, vines bulging from her body. Time is of the essence for our hero. With caution, he creeps closer, careful not to draw attention. A sudden shiver jolts through him as he discovers a spot on her that tingles at 15%. It's an improvement, but still falls short. Seraphina, noticing his actions, squints curiously and queries him about it. A growl escapes her lips as she warns of the impending danger. Yet, our protagonist remains focused on his target. Determination gleams in his eyes, despite the disdain in her voice. Ceres has made his move, seeking out the one spot she can't guard. This is his final gambit, a desperate attempt to strike that weak point and unleash everything he's got. There seems to be no alternative path. With resolve etched on his face, he readies his hand, powered by the Angel of Bliss gloves. Ceres recoils as he touches her most sensitive spot. Threatening a break, yet undeterred, Ceres clings on. Probing the sensitivity, it spikes from 11% to 14%, prompting another attempt. Infuriated, Seraphina retaliates with a solid kick, propelling him away. A sharp exhale escapes Seraphina as Ceres recoils, every charged hit sending ripples and draining his power. Snarling her frustration, she reprimands him for being an annoyance. Closing in is the key to inflicting real damage, she implies. Shaking off the lingering pain from her leg, Serafina stands firm. Demanding respect on her turf, she finds his actions unforgivable. Her energy lashes out, but 14% is insufficient to penetrate Siri's defenses. Determined to engage, Sirius advances and confronts the attack head-on. Serafina counterattacks with a vine-emitting yellow energy, striking him hard. Aware that humanity hangs in the balance, Sirius presses on, maintaining contact. Taken aback, Sirius stumbles back, yelping in pain. Astonished, Serafina watches as he tumbles away, seemingly taken off guard by his own retaliation. His skin stiffened, and it seemed his sensitivity was barely at 6%. Landing clumsily, Sirius swiftly activated the Angel of Bliss glove to touch Serafina once more. Fuming, Serafina barks orders for him to release her. She scoffs, labeling him a fool before delivering a powerful kick that sends him reeling further. Sensing danger, Sirius hastens his escape, fearful of being engulfed entirely by the aggressive vine wielder. Assessing the situation, he realizes the 6% charge was enough to free himself momentarily. Wide-eyed, Sirius spots a mouth on one of her vines, confirming their peculiar trait. Just then, Serafina's vines constrict around him. Miffed, she chides him for his cowardice and questions whether he is already surrendering. Smirking wickedly, Serafina warns Sirius that no matter what tactics he employs, he will ultimately be absorbed by her. She revels in the moment, relishing a taste she hasn't had in ages. Ensnared within her living vines, Sirius shivers as slimy mucus envelopes him. Serafina flinches in discomfort and queries aloud what Sirius is up to within her veins. The sensitivity level skyrockets to 25%. Swiftly, Serafina expels Sirius from her veins, and he lands hard on the ground. A wave of disgust washes over Sirius as he wades through the slimy interior, the potent odor filling his nostrils and making his eyes water. Curiosity piqued, he examines his status and notes that his sensitivity level is at 25%, a mere quarter of its maximum capacity. For vines in total, he wonders if touching each might bring him to the full mark. If this trend continues, Serafina would lose her purification abilities. Touching another vine could potentially double that percentage. Feeling the impact, she suspects the daisy she discarded is beginning its resurgence. She must safeguard the sacred space within her at all costs from Sirius. Enraged, she decides his elimination is necessary, and she will devour him once more. Her vines contort like fangs, transforming into ravenous foliage. Recognizing the vine that expelled him earlier, Sirius braces himself as the transformed plants lunge at him with renewed vigor. He observes that it's noticeably swifter now. Caught off guard, two vines spring from opposite sides, pinning him down. Still seething, Sirius decides to check his sensitivity level once more. Sirius thrusts a hand into the vine's maw, eliciting a wince from Serafina. Upon examination, the sensitivity remains at 25%, prompting an enraged shout from Serafina to halt his prying. Unyielding, the level stays put and Sirius evades. She labels him unsanitary, counterattacking with her massive purple tongue, drawing blood. With a growl, he vows to obliterate them all. Suddenly, the vines lash out from four directions, pondering if the vulnerable point isn't in the vine's mouth but somewhere else on Serafina's form. Prepared, Sirius dons his bliss gloves and attempts to dodge the relentless assault. Upon striking a stationary target, the gloves spark, discharging a shockwave creating an explosion. The blast strikes Serafina squarely. She deduces that it's his right hand activating the powerful wave attack, growing stronger with each impact. Pondering, Siri considers if perhaps the weak spot isn't within the vine's mouth, but somewhere else on her body. Sirius decides he must get closer to discover the truth. Undaunted, he dashes towards her, prepared to risk everything for mankind's liberation. Eager as ever, he pledges to explore every inch of her if it means victory. Baffled, Serafina struggles to reconcile his heroic demeanor with such audacious remarks. Sirius charges at her, his eyes ablaze scarlet, taking Serafina off guard. He points out her chest, reaching out towards it with resolve. In response, a thick cloud of pungent purple smoke billows from Serafina, making even the bravest flinch. Sirius jumps back, his expression questioning if she's attempting to hide something amidst the offensive aroma. His Angel of Bliss glove remains uncharged, forcing him to rely solely on his strength. A strange sensation takes hold, making him uneasy and dizzy. Could it be the smoke affecting him? Her vine tongue lashes out from within the fog, aiming for his heart. He lunges to grab it but fails as it swiftly retreats. Serafina giggles menacingly from the shadows, teasing him about impending paralysis and unconsciousness. Inside the smoky haze, Cirrus experiences a disorienting whirl in his head and his body growing heavier. He encounters a shock as his right hand brushes against her, unleashing a radiant wave. He grasps that she's trying to keep his right paw at bay. Now it seems a vine has nestled around his hand, and she swipes again, this time targeting his left side. Suspecting a feint, he believes the real danger lurks from the left flank. Yet, her assault opens an unexpected chance for him to make contact with her. After striking his left limb, her vines hurl him upon the hard ground. Seraphina declares that his formidable physique took her aback. She believed the bite would render his left arm powerless and the poisonous gas should have him on his knees by now, but he's still standing tall. In the pungent purple mist, Ceres starts to cough violently as her vines continue their assault. With a chilling grin, Seraphina promises that once she rips off his left arm, she'll savor each drop of his blood with a slow swallow. The shockwave source, his gloves, Ceres acknowledges. Her vines continue gnawing on his left arm, causing him to bleed. Instead of his right hand, he ponders and plunges it into Seraphina's vine, causing her considerable discomfort. Feeling roughly a quarter of the pain she inflicts, she endures. After a brief pause, he withdraws his hand, releasing a burst of yellow energy. With a charged pair of bliss gloves, Ceres sprints towards Seraphina, bracing for another impact. He muses over her peculiar monster physique. Externally, she resembles a human, but internally, she's an entirely different beast. In search of those rumored sensitive spots, he extends a hand to her chest. Creatures like hers are said to have unusually sensitive areas in the most unanticipated locations. On contact with her chest, he finds its sensitivity to be 38%. Noticing it's getting too close, she swiftly raises a hand for defense and positions her neck out of harm's way. Infuriated, she retaliates with a powerful kick and demands he keep his distance. The kick propels Ceres off balance, landing him flat on the ground with a thud. To his surprise, only 36% of his touch elicits a response from her chest. In return, he retaliates with a burst of radiant light energy. A massive yellow flash erupts from him. With split-second reflexes, Seraphina sidesteps the impending explosion, saving herself from harm. The ground trembles beneath them as debris scatters everywhere, hinting at the power behind his assault. Across the country in California, someone ponders aloud if a brawl might be brewing inside this very location. Ceres remains seated, resting his head in his hand, drained and exhausted. With unwavering concentration, Ceres deduces that despite the 36% sensitivity, he has yet to penetrate her vital regions. She explains further that his blood has instead bolstered her defenses. Seraphina chuckles, claiming his attack was ineffective against her. The pink smoke dissipates, and gradually, so too does Ceres' confusion. Desperate for a breakthrough, he must find her vulnerability quickly. With the little blood he has left, he considers venturing into uncharted territories. If she sucks any more of his power, he could be left completely defenseless. Pondering her closely, curiosity piqued about a potential vulnerability, he recalls an odd choice in their past, a foot attack rather than the neck. Flashes of their initial encounter flood his mind, reminding him that her hand didn't cover his mouth but instead targeted his foot. Strange, considering a neck strike would have made more sense. He recalls her blood-curdling scream and fingers combing through his hair, the memory bittersweet. Sensing a pattern, he muses if her hand might be her most sensitive spot, given her actions earlier. In response to his advance, she vows to keep him at bay, wrapping herself in a protective barrier. Addressing Seraphina as High Priestess, he questions her motives. A bystander voices concern over Seraphina's true intentions towards Cyrus. As if responding to his thoughts, another figure emerges from the shadows, Lilia. She orders him to remain motionless and drain his blood, growing increasingly agitated in her pursuit. Surprised by Lilia's presence, Seraphina's eyes widen with recognition. Reminded of their agreement, Seraphina pledges to imprison Ceres within the Holy Seal if detoxification fails, but Lilia persists, inquiring why she still lingers. Tension escalates as Seraphina demands her departure. Sanctus are bound by a divine rule to harm no living creature. Allowing Cyrus's demise contradicts this sacred doctrine. Should Ceres break free one day, the consequences could be catastrophic. Seraphina paints a picture of power, asserting that consuming Ceres would give Lilia control over all under the Holy Seal. She dismisses religious protocols, advocating for this supposedly safe resolution. Lilia remains steadfast, vowing to report their actions to the Holy Seal and attempts to guide Ceres away, hoping for his escape. A wave of indignation sweeps over Seraphina, labeling Lilia as inflexibly steadfast. Intent on a confrontation, vines whip out, aiming at Lilia, but Ceres swiftly intercepts, taking the blow instead and sending her tumbling aside. The strike intended for Lilia finds its mark in Cirrus. His reactive sensitivity spikes by 32%. Quickly countering, Cirrus unleashes a burst of light, yet his movements slow, nearing exhaustion. A searing pain grips him as the strike pierces deeper than anticipated. With a groan, he manages to brace himself on one arm before crumpling to the ground. Seraphina employs her purification magic, claiming it would halt the bleeding and ease his discomfort. Kneeling beside him, Lilia presses her foot against the hurt area, her expression etched with agony. Ceres yearns for more, but Lilia remains resolute. She explains it as an emergency spell that mimics caffeine, warning him of potential numbness akin to being under anesthesia if overused. With one final plea for retreat, she offers Lilia a chance for peace, should she remain silent. However, Seraphina's vines lunge once more, snatching Lilia up and threatening her life. Quoting the Holy Seal's rules, she advises it's not worth risking her life for a trivial individual. But in Lilia's eyes, Cirrus isn't merely some guy, he is her charge. Meanwhile, Cirrus is twisting and turning to avoid Seraphina's hits and realizes the sensitivity level is only at 2%. You have to do everything you can to protect them until the very end. Seraphina glances over at Lilia, who's still tangled up in her vines, and says she'll make sure Cirrus goes down right in front of her. Out of nowhere, Seraphina starts feeling woozy and the vines that were going after Cirrus pull back. Ceres sees that Seraphina is a bit vulnerable and takes his shot. He fires off a huge lightwave attack at her and then grabs both of her hands tight. Suddenly, the sensitivity hits the max and the screen shows her weak spot, unlocking the ultimate move. When Ceres grabs Seraphina's hands, she resists and yelling they belong to Lord Azithar. She struggles with thinking that his grip is too strong and feels pain as her hands swell, vines bulging under her skin. And Ceres sees them starting to transform. Seraphina realizes that as a Galea carnivorous plant, all her sensitive nerves are in her hands. Pain hits like an electric shock and she collapses, pleading for Cirrus to let go, but Cirrus holds on and the vines wrapped around them begin releasing impurities. Watching closely, Lilia notices the High Priestess's body is full of toxins. It dawns on Seraphina that Cirrus is purging her from within, a detoxifying process. Transforming into a monstrous form, Seraphina vows retribution against Ceres. Shuddering with dread, Ceres attempts to flee but finds himself immobilized, suspecting Lilia's magic is to blame. Fuming, Seraphina declares consuming Ceres as the only way to salvage humanity. Unyielding, Ceres unleashes a colossal shockwave. The force from his bliss gloves explodes the building, with lingering effects even reaching Lilia, leaving her awestruck over the demonstrated power. Clutching his face in agony, Ceres mutters that the recoil shattered his teeth. The spectacle continues as Cirrus and Lilia observe Seraphina returning to her natural state as a massive carnivorous plant. Overextending himself during combat, Ceres is now in peril and swift action is needed to prevent further deterioration. Lilia gasps, calling his name and checking his temperature. Ceres staggers, taking deep breaths, whispering that something isn't right before collapsing into Lilia's embrace. Gently lowering him onto the ground, she places her radiant foot over the injured part of his body. With a firm determination, she declares she'll mend his internal wounds first. Suddenly, Cirrus is puzzled as the surroundings transform into muddy sludge, and he queries the oddity. Lilia clarifies calmly that this muck is a physical embodiment of his wounds. He winces, finding it chillier than ever before, unable to move an inch. His body, fragile as ice, struggles beneath this thick sludge. Ceres makes another attempt to move but feels weighted down severely. She recognizes the risk involved, for if not treated promptly, it might freeze him from within. Lilia maintains her focus, employing purification magic through her foot as she monitors the sludge's changing hues. So, she begins to scrub it away before it can solidify completely. Ceres exhales slowly and appears more relaxed. Then a glowing message emerges on the screen, signaling the completion of the mission. If her thoughts waver, her healing power weakens, potentially failing entirely. Lilia remains steadfast and urges him to relax and take deep breaths. Her magic, derived from purification, requires a clear mind. She hastens to conclude the process before doubts cloud her judgment. Ceres expresses warmth returning and attempts to sit up. Lilia steps aside gently and informs him that his internal injuries are now completely healed. Now, aiding in his recovery, she places her foot gently on his lips, a signal they're nearing the final phase of healing. With his mind still hazy, Ceres imagines a luscious chocolate cake and nibbles as if it's second nature. This spell means more to her than just a charm. Determined, Lilia insists he finishes every crumb, fearful of magic's failure. It's a trial of faith. She trusts she'll mend him completely. Suddenly, a notification appears on the screen announcing a favorability rating of 51%. Ceres continued to lick his feet, praising the taste of the cake. Lilia winced visibly, clearly uncomfortable, and instructed him firmly to curb the tongue action. A message flashed on the screen, revealing a 60% dust index concerning her due to his rapid energy consumption. His muscles were already cramping, and if this continued, he'd wake up feeling stiff and exhausted. Recognizing the urgency, she hastened to lower his temperature before it escalated further. The desire escalates and she feels a tad overwhelmed. Optimal moment for intervention as his body becomes a sponge for sensations. Advancing, she braces for resistance. Sirius flinches, but Lilia persists, reassuring him it's vital for treatment progress. Struggling to keep her magic potent, she takes a deep breath, pushing aside the darkness creeping in. Sirius yelps, clutching his foot, urging Lilia to hurry with the treat. Blushing, Lilia urges him to munch quickly, as her resolve wavers and the desire intensifies. Sirius continues his curious licking, causing a tickle that makes Lilia chuckle. In an attempt to concentrate, she diverts her thoughts to religious teachings: balance, purity, restraint from temptation. Keep it clean, avoid lust, find equilibrium. By adhering to these principles, she suppresses unwanted emotions and maintains her purity. The desire subsides. Once done, Lilia withdraws her feet, informing Sirius the treatment's complete and the lust index drops to 67%. Rising, Sirius inquires if it's finished, and Lilia affirms with a reassuring nod. A surge of power courses through Lilia, realizing her purification magic has amplified significantly, perhaps even doubled its former strength. Lilia ponders the potential of this upgrade, expediting her journey towards becoming the Archbishop. She recalls that healing Siri's injuries not only purified him but also boosted her magic further. As Sirius commends her skills, the energetic healed warrior gives credit to his magical recovery. Lilia suggests that Sirius should consult her for any treatments in the future, even minor ailments. Enter Mr. Charlton, accompanied by a green-haired girl named Daisy, who lets out an audible gasp of surprise. Sirius concurs and agrees to return the favor. The narrative shifts to the Holy Church, where a gaping hole marred its once pristine facade. Charlton wonders aloud if this destruction was the result of a demonic beast attack. Charlton approaches Sirius and Lilia, who are already on the scene, and inquires about the incident, suspecting it might be an attack. They express the need to await the new Archbishop before moving forward, yet propose a discussion on collaboration in the meantime. Lilia informs Charlton of their carnivorous plants that Sirius proudly displays. Siri seems uncertain and mentions they're still gathering information but are certain the Archbishop is missing. Charlton is taken aback by this revelation, and Lilia clarifies that certain steps can be skipped once the Archbishop endorses their plan. On the verge of departure, Siri is summoned back by Charlton, who requests Daisy to escort Siri's home. With a heavy sigh, Siri consents and steps aside, bidding farewell to Mr. Charlton. He asks Lilia to keep him updated on the events unfolding at the Warrior Guild. Siri cocks an eyebrow, intrigued by recent happenings. Meanwhile, during the ride with Daisy, she steals furtive glances but maintains road focus. Daisy discloses that several A-rank warriors have fallen. She hints at a bizarre demonic entity invading the city, preying on warriors. Siri tilts his head in confusion, seeking clarification. He learns that their lifeless bodies are discovered drained of blood, and each casualty had gruesome genital mutilations. This revelation shocks Siri, who reiterates the part about the blood drain, attempting to piece together the puzzle. The victims bear peculiar markings etched into their skin that resemble some sort of beastly language. Daisy informs him gravely. It seems the creature is on a hunt for a specific target. A chilling thought crosses Siri's mind as he begins to ponder if this bloodthirsty beast is after none other than himself. Just then, a girl named Sahel appears at the window, cursing under her breath. Daphne from Zone D is spearheading the investigation. Daisy clarifies to keep nerves settled. She's already on the trail of this demonic entity. Inside, the white-haired Yogo looks up in surprise and queries why she's returned. She highlights that the place is bustling with vendors and soldiers. Sahel shakes her head, expressing reluctance. Then she asks if Sahel intends to stick around. She warns Yogo it's enemy territory and getting caught could lead to a big human headache, which she wishes to avoid at all costs. Sahel expresses concern about stepping outside due to danger, hinting at her inability to alter one's essence. Yogo chuckles, playfully denying her request for transformation magic. Suddenly, blood trickles from Yogo's mouth, and she collapses unexpectedly. A puzzled Yago reprimands Sahel, accusing her of feigning illness to grab attention, refusing to share her master. Siri seeks clarification from Daisy about the vampiric monster matter. As they exit, Siri reminisces about their past encounters. Upon noticing Yogo, Ceres admires her unique name, and Daisy echoes the sentiment. Yogo acknowledges Ceres' return. Yogo hastily hides Sahel upon sensing another presence with the master. Ceres enters, greeted warmly by Yogo, who welcomes their safe return. Ceres gestures for Daisy to join them inside, piquing Yogo's curiosity. Apologetic, Daisy assures Yogo she isn't interrupting anything. Yago's red eyes flicker, recognizing the situation, as another female presence means more complications for her. Ceres presents a carnivorous plant to Yogo, while Daisy remains barefooted, pondering her next action. Yogo sighs, contemplating how to manage this new predicament. Simultaneously, Yog grumbles to herself, contemplating how to oust Daisy from her master's presence, as she perceived the woman as a potential complication. In the midst of serving Ceres and Daisy, Ceres queries about the vampire beast's infiltration into the city. Daisy informs her that the colossal dragon, Beagle down south, is about to awaken, threatening chaos everywhere. With fewer warriors present, Daisy admits that the beast managed to infiltrate due to a hasty decision on her part, when she handed Ceres the captain's badge, neglecting something crucial. Inquisitive, Ceres seeks clarification and Daisy enlightens her, revealing that being the secretary to Zone Z's vice president necessitates keeping track of the warriors' preferences and residences. Perusing the form, Ceres ponders why a spouse section is included, questioning if it was truly necessary to complete every bit of it. Daisy confirms that all newly appointed captains must fill out the form and submit it to the guild, emphasizing the importance of thoroughness as it might influence the team's assessment. Ceres sighs reluctantly, committing to completing the form, while Daisy harbors secret aspirations that this might bring her closer to him. At that moment, they hear a sound from another room, and Ceres wonders how another individual gained access to Yog's domain. Rising to investigate, he inquires if Sethel is injured, fearing she may have been discovered by the intruder. Frightened, Sethel worries about her safety if the woman recognized her, for should she be spotted, the warriors would likely pursue her, forcing her to defend herself once more. Sahel's eyes narrow, questioning her intentions towards Ceres, who denies any threat to the uninvited guest and reassures that they'll devise an alternate plan. Upon inquiry from Daisy, Yog identifies the intruder as his elder sibling. Eyes wide, Daisy contemplates her place in Ceres' affection, now sharing a room with another woman. Inside, Sahel presses for immediate removal of the unwelcome guest or faces confrontation. Yog waves off concerns, trusting Ceres to manage the situation, even warning about potential retaliation from the newcomer. Daisy expresses concern over their safety and offers aid. Sahel exits hastily, accidentally colliding with Ceres, marveling at her power despite injuries. She timidly proposes a meal at a favorite eatery to ease the tension outside. Ceres passes on the form-filling task to Daisy for submission at the guild. Both Yog and Ceres appear perplexed by the suggestion, giving Daisy a scrutinizing gaze. Ceres expresses bewilderment, seeking approval for the proposal. Yog grabs some food from the table, reminding them it's time to refuel before continuing their mission. Ceres ponders when the plan was hatched. Yog blushes, delicately placing a morsel on Ceres' chest and drawing her near, urging her to partake and linger until done. Daisy's eyes widen as Ceres remains frozen in surprise. Ceres nonchalantly mulls over the mystery of its ingredients, hinting it's a mix of snake liver and bat wings, yet claiming it surprisingly tastes great. Yog nudges Ceres closer and prompts him to try another bite, assuring he must finish everything on his plate. Ceres, in contrast, merely shakes his head and declines. Daisy, observing, queries if this is Ceres' usual dining behavior. He sighs, confesses it's not really his preference. Yog, persistently offering food, simply grins and shares they do this daily due to her master's liking. She tells Daisy to depart if she finds the scene unpleasant. Daisy apologizes for the intrusion and exits, musing if Ceres and Yog have grown closer now. A loud knock echoes. Outside stands a girl with vivid pink hair, politely requesting entry. Within, another girl hears her and scowls, visibly annoyed. The lad accompanying her, Roy, displays a perplexed expression, querying the silence. Employing his arcane abilities, he forcefully opens the door, causing a booming crash. Inside, Ceres leaps in alarm and fury, scolding them for their rudeness and destruction, revealing the cost of his precious door was 100 silver coins. From the shadows, Diana emerges with a relaxed demeanor, offering a check worth 100 gold coins, asserting it would more than cover the damage, being accepted anywhere. Diana presents her case, causing Ceres to pause, accept the check, and inquire about their intentions. She proposes he work for her, ready to pay him a staggering 500,000 gold coins. Ceres stands stunned as such an offer seems preposterous. Yog, however, grows increasingly irritated by the minute. Daisy directs her gaze towards Diana and Roy, reminding them of their Zone D origins. Diana retorts playfully, labeling Daisy an old lady, questioning its significance. Ceres gazes at her, bewildered, sensing she seeks to claim his master. Before Ceres could reply, Daisy interjects, advising him against the deal. This remark triggers Daisy's wrath as she vehemently declares Ceres is crucial to Zone Z and they won't let him slip away to Zone D. The perspective shifts to outside the building where Daphne stands with her team. One of her associates kneels by a corpse, meticulously examining it. He remarks that the blood has yet to fully congeal, suggesting the unfortunate soul perished only 4 to 5 hours prior. In her mind, she scoffs at the news that the little serpent met Ceres. At this revelation, Daphne's countenance stiffens. Another member chimes in, sharing that Diana had visited Ceres. Keeping her voice stern and focused, she commands her team to comb through the surroundings thoroughly. Should they stumble upon the vampiric beast, they are instructed to report back and wait for further orders, no reckless heroics included. Without another word, Daphne activates her powers, propelling herself into the sky, the wind whizzing past as she coolly thinks, Diana won't try that stunt again on me. The rampage of the Dragoon Beagle echoes through the skies, its roars shaking buildings to their core. Ceres, meant for Zone Z, is nowhere in sight. Instead, a colossal dragon wreaks havoc on structures, hurling debris haphazardly. Rooftops are swatted aside like tissue paper, and tree-sized pillars are snapped in two as easily as twigs. The slay dragon blade remains unretrieved, the only weapon said to harm Beagle. Yet, the tension continues to simmer. Guild members strive to maintain order amidst the chaos. One member notes that everyone has already been evacuated from the area, thus avoiding civilian casualties. He notes that Beagle isn't targeting the city out of malice at least. However, the guild master views the situation differently. Engaging the beast head-on is too risky. A young scout proposes a more cautious approach, staying away and observing from a distance. Apparently, Beagle has a soft spot for gold, and finds the ruins near the outskirts particularly cozy, due to the treasure hidden beneath. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Daisy leans towards Lady Diana asking if they can manage to snag the elusive captain from Zone Z. Diana queries whether they have enough funds to make such an offer worth their while. She turns towards Ceres, seeking his thoughts, yet all he offers is a blank stare and an admission of unfamiliarity. This doesn't deter Diana, who swiftly reveals the purpose behind the inquiry, to expose Ceres' breach of the no-cooperation policy and uncover details about the Shade Dungeon incident. However, there's a twist to this tale. Ceres would have to do it all on live television, merely to embarrass his sister. Diana presses harder, her frustration clear. Yet, when Ceres comprehends her scheme, he politely declines. She persists, suggesting he could earn a fortune from this. Ceres remains calm and replies that it isn't worth causing Daphne distress. He stands firm on his word, implying to Diana that this is merely a negotiation tactic. She muses aloud if he's merely after more money and proposes a better deal. That's when Daphne's voice echoes from behind, firm and dominant. Caught off guard, Diana swiftly turns to find Daphne storming into the room, demanding they leave Ceres alone. She appears ready for a fight, but Roy intervenes just in time, reminding her that she can't hit her sister that hard. Observational joke. Seems like Daphne and her right hook are as inseparable as peanut butter and jelly. Daphne slightly retreats, warning Roy to keep his nose out. From the corner, Daisy whispers a gossipy hint about Daphne and Cyrus. Diana throws a smirk at Daphne, accusing her of insecurity or mistrust towards Cyrus, especially since he's been jobless lately. Daphne scowls back, labeling herself as just a born troublemaker. Ceres intervenes, reminding them that Cyrus hasn't even spoken yet. Yet, Daphne's thoughts wander to the past, where Cyrus had helped her and kept his word despite temptations. Her eyes then flicker towards Diana, a smirk playing at the corners of her lips. She notes the changes in Diana, perhaps attempts to fix something with money. Jokingly, Daphne remarks that Diana's enhancements aren't natural, but Diana denies it angrily. Diana orders Roy to follow her out, labeling everyone in the room as gross. As they exit, Diana seethes, plotting revenge against Daphne for secrets she suspects Cyrus might hold. Once they're gone, Daphne grumbles about Cyrus not kicking his own sister out himself. Alone with her thoughts, Ceres can't help but ponder the strained bond between the two sisters. A report arrives just then, sparking a brief thought in Ceres. Maybe Daphne was right about the enhancements after all. Without hesitation, Daphne dashes out to investigate. A white-haired demonic bust has been discovered in Zone Y. Daphne, on the move, doesn't need a second invite. Daisy takes a swift departure, bidding farewell. Ceres receives distressing news from Yog about Sathel's critical condition. Her vital signs plummet, and an advanced recovery herb appears to be their only hope. In a flurry of desperation, Ceres ponders an unconventional solution. Could Sato's energy-imbued blood offer a lifeline? Without pause, he selflessly slices his palm and lets the crimson flow into Sathel's waiting mouth. Yog exhales in surprise, but it seems to be working. A luminous green mana envelopes Sathel. Ceres holds her breath, watching attentively. Gradually, Sathel stirs. Her eyes flicker open and she clutches her forehead groggily. Concerned, Ceres queries softly if she's well. Meanwhile, Beagle returns to his leisurely boulder gnawing. A whiff catches his attention, causing him to halt abruptly. His snout quivers. Fear ripples swiftly. He spins, bearing sharp fangs in a low growl. His imposing figure shifts into motion. This is unprecedented. Alarm bells chime as Beagle marches towards Salem. Salem's master shouts for everyone to stand ready. The scent of the Lord of Sato, now coursing through Ceres, reaches him. Reports flood in Beagle is charging straight for the city. And he covets it. Yog savors the blood's aroma, captivated. Sathel clings to Ceres's hand, vowing not to let a drop go to waste. Ceres reddens and protests she's squeezing his hand excessively, finding it tickling instead. Yog calls out to him, admitting she too can no longer resist the urge to sample some blood. She seizes his head and attacks his hand, seeking a taste for herself. A feeding frenzy ensues as they both suck insistently, causing Ceres to exclaim that he's losing feeling in his hands. The demon duo ponders if their bodies are buzzing due to purification internally at work. Yog notices it's healing Sathel too, as she can't seem to stop sucking and desires more. Suddenly, a shrill emergency alarm sounds, announcing the activation of a high-level magic barrier. The news snaps them out of their trance. They both halt their actions, startled by the unexpected announcement. Sathel regains awareness of her loss of control, while Yog is surprised to find her clothes magically restored, though her magic reserves have taken a hit now. The announcement continues, revealing a giant dragon named Beagle heading for Salem City, with an arrival time of 10 days. All citizens are urged to seek shelter in underground bunkers, and all warriors must ready their dragon-slaying weapons to defend themselves. Every warrior must report to HQ within 3 hours or face demotion from the guild. A subtle joke, and if you're late, better hope you aren't demoted from your favorite food truck. Speeding jeeps flock toward HQ while a secretary delivers the grim news to Ceres. No recruits and Zone Z's vehicles are tapped out. Groaning, Ceres contemplates a 100-mile run before venting his frustration, urging her to recruit someone, anyone. She merely shrugs off his plea, buried in paperwork. Just as despair seeps in, Irene from Squad 14 extends an offer, inviting Ceres to join forces if he seeks a ride. But first, he'd need to team up with another guild, she adds. As Ceres discloses his F-rank captain status, Irene stiffens and promptly distances herself, reminding him of the unspoken stigma attached to that rank. Their conversation abruptly ends, with Irene denying it ever happened, leaving Ceres seething in anger. Out of nowhere, Bella emerges, requesting a spot in Squad 15. Recognizing his presence, Bella greets him warmly, only to scold him gently for neglecting their friendship post-hospitalization. Curious about his whereabouts, she mentions she's heard tales of his exploits. Ceres fills her in on his busy schedule before admitting he's now a captain. Bella beams with pride and promises to catch up with him post-mission. The secretary breaks in, reminding him of the mountain of paperwork awaiting his attention, while Irene, overhearing their conversation, boasts about her A-rank captain's superiority over Ceres' F-rank colleagues. Then, with a sneer, Tai enters the scene, asserting Ceres' promotion to captain was purely due to his connections. Bella's eyes widen, recognizing the familiar face. Tai attempts to sway her, promoting Callant's society, boasting about how his armor boosts his strength beyond Ceres. He extends an invitation and even promises an A-rank sword in return. However, Bella remains loyal, stating her choice is with Ceres. With a scowl, Bella approaches the paperwork, while Tai grits his teeth, pondering why Bella always sides with Ceres instead of him. Irene mutters a curse at Bella's questionable taste and advises Tai to forget about her and move on. Tai is seething, declaring that one day, they'll all need his assistance. Meanwhile, back at the desk, Ceres is raising a ruckus over not receiving a vehicle. The secretary informs him Squad 14 snatched the remaining 2, despite being just 5 members strong. Ceres retorts with a scathing remark about public humiliation, suggesting he ask Captain Tyler for aid instead. Laughing derisively, Tyler dismisses Cyrus as a joke, incapable of affording proper armor. Quietly, Cyrus scrutinizes a paper bestowed upon him by Lady Diana, revealing a promise of help whenever needed. Pondering the delay, Tyler expresses concern. One crew member informs him that his team has arrived and Tyler inquires if he can't simply claim a vehicle, to which Cirrus concurs. Lowering his sword, Tyler apologetically jokes about his struggle with the Thunder Rage weapon, requesting assistance in its retrieval. Taylor interjects, asserting that true warriors must prove themselves if they seek help. The driver hints at begging for mercy, suggesting forgiveness could be granted for their rudeness. Bella rebukes him forcefully while Irene can't help but comment on her unfortunate choice in suitors. Taylor proclaims that every warrior must reach headquarters within 3 hours or forfeit their spot. Recognizing Taylor's control over Ceres due to Bella, she narrows her eyes. Surprised, Ceres announces the helicopter's arrival. Recognizing it's a luxury ride reserved for VIPs, they all gape as a chopper emblazoned with the guild logo arrives. Questions swirl about the mission demanding such extravagance, but Taylor brushes them off, convinced it's something momentous. He urges them to halt their guesswork. A young lady descends from the helicopter, querying Cirrus if the time has come. Taylor's team is taken aback, assuming Cirrus, a mere F-rank warrior, isn't up for such a risk. Ceres takes his sword and signals Bella to climb aboard. Taylor raises an eyebrow at Ceres' brashness, then realizes he's armed. He orders Ceres to relinquish the weapon, but Ceres merely mentions forgetting to return it. Using his powers, he hurls the sword into the ground, igniting a massive explosion upon striking the gas tank. Chaos ensues as their car bursts into flames. Taylor barks orders for them to find another mode of transport. The crew exclaims over the monstrous creature feasting on humans, draining their energy like trolls at a buffet. The beast licks the blood, expressing a puzzlement over its taste, questioning which fellow's life essence it seeks. A sense of intrigue fills the creature as it zeroes in on the group, threatening to drain every male resident in the city until it locates the appropriate one. A wave of panic sweeps across the crowd, voices echoing faith in Daphne's presence and assurance that all will be well. One voice rings out, urging them to defend the city instead of constantly venturing in search of warriors. The beast lunges towards them, triggering a warning from the commander about the imminent assault, but the beast seizes him instead. A look of terror grabs hold of the commander as he stares into the beast's gaping maw, fearing his demise was imminent. Just in the nick of time, someone swoops in to save the day, with Daphne scolding them for not waiting patiently. Recognition dawns upon her as she identifies the demon, demanding an explanation for its survival. They suggest heading to headquarters, but Daphne remains adamant about defeating the beast first. Empowered by newfound confidence, Daphne declares that this time she holds the advantage, hinting at a previous encounter. She offers a concession to the beast, admitting she's prepared to give up a part of herself since its strength has diminished. The beast appears relieved and shares that it's only a collection of fragments, following a man with demonic blood, thinking it had faced him before. Daphne discerns the beast's intent towards Ceres, promptly vowing to prevent any encounter. Curious about the sealed chamber beneath headquarters, Ceres inquires. Diana assures it's a secret only shared among trusted allies. Bella queries if any beasts may surface there. She recalls the swords designed for dragon slaying are safeguarded within that hidden space. Ceres raises concerns about the demonic beast lurking nearby, sensing danger in this location. Yet Diana insists it's secure. Upon entering, they discover the guards deceased. Diana is taken aback by a new statue, the sleeping maiden, that wasn't previously present. She ponders if their intel was flawed. Bella notices an injured man still breathing amidst the chaos, rushing to support him against the wall. The rest of the team scatters to investigate the basement. Lady Diana stands in awe, struggling to comprehend how this once peaceful basement could turn into such a tragedy. The injured man whispers that the maid had descended before the chaos ensued. This revelation leaves Lady Diana uneasy. Demanding answers, she demands to know what's unfolding beneath them. The maid's spectral remnants pick up the commotion. It's too late, the statue has already awoken. He advises silence, warning that the figure might stir again. The statue's stone eyes flash open, illuminating the room with an eerie glow. In a flash, a scorching laser blast erupted from her stone gaze, catching Ceres and his crew off guard. With lightning speed, Roy shouted out for Lady Diana, hurling himself over her shielding body as the first wave struck. Swiftly, Ceres yanked Diana back, using himself as a barrier to endure the subsequent impact. As suddenly as it started, the beam ceased. The statue's eyes drooped once more, resuming their lifeless state. Lady Diana, her brows knit in worry, checked on Roy, fear creeping into her voice as she asked if he was all right. A lopsided grin crossed Roy's face, reassuringly telling her that only his hand required some rest, with no major injuries to report. With the dust still settling, Lady Diana glanced nervously at Roy, who urged them to scatter while they had a chance. However, he quickly amended there simply wasn't time for that. Bella remained by the injured man, tending to his wounds and offering what help she could. Inquiringly, Ceres questioned if the statue only fired its laser when it detected sound. The man nodded swiftly, cautioning them about the steps leading into a hazardous area near the statue. Moving or making noise from there would trigger the deadly attack. Ceres clutched his sword tighter, warning them of the imminent danger lurking nearby. Directing Bella to stay with the wounded man and tend to his injuries, Ceres also reminded her to keep an eye on Lady Diana. While maintaining vigil over Lady Diana, he tasked Bella with safeguarding the injured man as well. Diana, visibly agitated, demands total destruction of the statue. Ceres proposes a calculated approach, one eye at a time, leaving room for backup in case of injury. Roy expresses doubt, suggesting this method would be safer. He inquires if Ceres is certain he can handle this threat, given his E-rank status as a player. Unfazed, Ceres remains silent and charges forward with his sword aloft, eager to test his strength. The statue's maid senses his approach. Her head jerks up, eyes reopening once more. A laser beam targets Ceres again. He attempts evasion, questioning if he could dodge completely. Yet he knows close calls would tire him quickly. He listens for footsteps, calculates reaction time, and swiftly moves back and forth to disorient the statue. The statue continues firing, its beam indiscriminately slicing through stone and air without mercy. The others struggle to keep up as blasts start striking them, too. Bella watches in horror as they realize this entity is far more formidable than initially anticipated. Ceres closely observes the statue's pattern of attack. It consistently seeks out the noisiest presence. With a hunch proven, Ceres flings his sword backward. The statue responds promptly, reducing the weapon to rubble with a silent hiss. Ceres verifies his assumption, it responds to sound. Gathering another tool, he readies for another attempt. In a swift lunge, he reaches the statue and lands a powerful strike, but his weapon shatters on collision. Before Ceres can recover, Roy enters the fray. His knuckles solidify to rock, and he asserts with confidence that this should be a breeze for him. He strikes the statue's torso with all his might, only to find minimal impact. Caught off guard, Roy hardly has time to process before the statue seizes him. With no time to waste, Ceres takes action, grabbing a nearby hammer and whacking the statue from behind. Upon closer inspection, as he strikes, a glint catches his eye amidst the debris. Another eye on the statue's back, an unwelcome sight. A warning goes unheeded as the hidden eye springs to life, spewing another beam of energy. Ceres performs a quick roll, avoiding the brunt of the blast. Meanwhile, Roy, in the grip of the statue, sets up a makeshift shield, a large stone cross, a feeble attempt to stall its advances. Struggling against the statue's grasp, Roy glimpses trouble brewing. The hidden eyes ignite with light, a laser beam ready to fire. Its gaze locks onto Lady Diana, swiveling swiftly towards her. Diana catches Roy's distress and responds. The statue seems to listen, if only subtly. Bella steps up, shouting for Diana to retreat. Roy, desperate, takes a risk. He tugs on Diana, pulling her back into safety, just in time. He throws his arms over the statue's eyes, hoping to deflect its gaze and buy them more time. The pain is intense, yet he continues to shout at Ceres, urging him to strike now. His voice bounces off the basement walls as the laser continues to fire, burning him with each blast. Despite the agony, Roy reaches for the statue's head, attempting to twist or yank it away from his companions. Out of nowhere, Ceres senses an odd warmth emanating from the statue's chest. As he gets closer, he feels a surprising warmth. The warmth triggers a reaction none could foresee. To everyone's astonishment, the statue stirs. A soft blush stains her stony cheeks. Without warning, she flings Roy and Ceres away with an unexpected strength. Ceres stumbles back, eyes fixed on the statue's every move, as if it's a delicate dance. The statue, seemingly bashful, curls up slightly and hides its chest with tender arms. Roy growls in frustration, having dealt heavy blows yet barely cracking the stubborn statue. Ceres, though puzzled, can't grasp why she's reacting this way. His gaze drifts to his hand, quivering and discolored, clearly broken from the exertion. A cry of pain reverberates through the chamber, a testament to the agony he now feels. The echo of his pain is deafening, a stark reminder that he won't be able to unleash another strike like that again. The statue's eyes flash open once more, focusing on Roy as if drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Bracing himself, Roy prepares for the inevitable. Ceres doesn't hesitate. Stepping forward, he positions himself in front of Roy as a shield, arms outstretched to absorb the impending blast. Roy can hardly believe his eyes. He roars at Ceres, questioning the logic behind attempting to block a laser with bare hands. The statue pauses, surprised as Ceres gently touches her chest and gives it a soft squeeze. That simple act throws her off balance. This unexpected gesture causes the statue to falter. With a change in her posture, the laser fires once more, but instead of hitting its intended target, it impacts the walls behind them, a reminder of the statue's newfound vulnerability. Pondering if her tactile sensations are indeed real, Ceres confounds all with an unconventional defensive strategy. Stunned silence fills the air, even from Bella and Lady Diana. Roy, bewildered and hurting, queries Ceres about this peculiar turn of events. In response, Ceres remains cryptic. She merely advises Roy to retreat, given his injury. With a slow step back, Roy obliges but catches the statue's attention. In turn, she readjusts her aim and readies another offensive strike. Ceres swiftly counters, breaking the statue's concentration with a nimble feint. Bella chuckles, expressing surprise at this uncharacteristic display from Ceres, yet acknowledging its effectiveness. The blast misses Roy, slamming into another part of the wall. Meanwhile, Diana peeks out from cover and inquires with Bella if Ceres often fights in such a manner. Checking on Roy once more, Diana learns he's fine, but concedes they underestimated the statue's resilience. Wary, Roy reminds Ceres she remains a formidable adversary, extra line added for humor, even with her pinky finger. The statue maintains a single, unwavering gaze towards Ceres. He nimbly evades her strike, causing the statue's chest to jiggle slightly. She appears momentarily disoriented and takes a brief pause to regroup. Her attacks are becoming less precise. Ceres stays vigilant, watching more cautiously this time. After a short break, she charges again, agitated but persistent. He starts to suspect that her fighting style might be unraveling. From the side, he comments on how disorganized her attacks have become. In a surprising turn of events, Ceres gives the statue a gentle swat on the rear and shouts for her to focus if she's serious about fighting. The statue falters mid-attack, leaving Roy astonished, eyes wide with amazement. Despite the peculiarity of his method, he acknowledges that Ceres is managing the situation in his own quirky yet effective manner. Lady Diana approaches to check on him. On the ground, Roy cradles his chest, groaning from pain, suspecting his ribs might be fractured due to the statue's relentless blows. Bella steps in, warning that a broken rib could pose a serious risk, potentially affecting his heart and lung function every time he takes a breath. Offering aid, she requests a peek at his injury area, cautioning it'll momentarily alleviate his discomfort. Changing gears, she inquires about the statue, asking if any player fond of Ceres could subdue it. When Roy queries her observations, she attributes them to his injuries instead. As Roy lifts his shirt, Bella, momentarily startled, regains composure and focuses on assessment. Pondering the struggle, Roy acknowledges that even his mightiest moves hardly affect the statue. Meanwhile, Ceres appears to have dampened the statue's aggression, showing signs of control. Bella implies Ceres' abilities surpass those of an S-frame player. Cracking a joke, Ceres suggests her lapse in focus might be due to her blazer slipping and the statue's allure. He acknowledges her emotions, finding her adorable and noticing she shies away when embarrassed. The statue remains silent, attempting to conceal itself. Ceres is taken aback, pondering if she's actually averting eye contact. Deciding to get closer, he extends his hand towards her, teasingly inquiring if anyone has previously touched her navel. Suddenly, she lashes out with a kick, aiming for Ceres to ward off his advances. Bella cries out, urging intervention as the fight now rests on Ceres' shoulders. However, Ceres responds by gripping her foot, causing the statue to squirm bashfully. Roy swiftly shields Bella, warning her not to upset the delicate balance in Ceres' favor. She queries the oddness of his words, to which Roy advises staying focused, clarifying it's Ceres gripping her foot, not an assault from the statue. He insists she sense his heartbeat through her foot, giving her leg another gentle shake. This escalates the unease for the statue, prompting her to open her eyes and unleash laser beams once more. The team is taken aback as they witness these lasers losing their usual strength. Ceres alerts the statue that her attacks are weakening, yet still potentially harmful to him. In a sudden move, she clasps Ceres firmly by the neck and pulls him in close. Roy bellows out that she's about to deliver a powerful attack, urging Ceres to break free. Ceres gestures towards her chin, with Roy warning him to dodge instead of advancing since it could be fatal. The system locks on and Ceres leans in for a kiss. She's left momentarily stunned by the sudden gesture, and Roy notes that she remains speechless post-kiss. Ceres takes another step nearer while Roy comments that her reaction to his approach has yet to surface. Lady Diana yelps as she hides her face in embarrassment. They exchange breaths while Ceres recovers from the kiss. The statue pushes him away and playfully asks if she stuck out her tongue on purpose. The statue, now beet red, hides behind her arms, shielding both her face and her embarrassment. Intrigued, Ceres prods her gently, teasing about a rigid tongue. Eager to regain her attention, Ceres queries if he's made an impression, but the statue remains mum. One teammate doubts their directions, suggesting they might need multiple paths based on the intel. He calls for reinforcements because the shy girl isn't showing any signs of lifting her head yet. Taylor and his squad find themselves in a labyrinth, scratching their heads in confusion. Taylor can't shake off the feeling that he's navigating a never-ending maze. Another teammate questions the validity of the single-path info. Taylor expresses his bewilderment, asking why this place feels like a maze. Irene reassures them that the intel from HQ is usually on point and there must be a reason for this layout. Irene speculates that the previous team might have triggered something that altered the terrain somehow. The team leader calls out, urging everyone to rely on their strength and skills to ward off the colossal dragon charging at them. They report that many players are missing and rumors abound that most haven't even found the entrance yet. A ginger teammate queries if everyone has activated their Slay Dragon Blade. One player yelps in pain as he's hurled to the ground. Suddenly, another team alerts them of a monster approaching. One player exclaims that he's ensnared the dragon's feet with magic, generating a powerful green mana, and warns everyone, including their captain, about the trapped limbs. Regrettably, the dragon breaks free from its restraints with a massive blow, sending players sprawling and injuring them. The player realizes that his grip is slipping and he can't hold on for long, so he orders everyone to attack the beast. Then, a high-ranked Iron Arm Titan named Cassius bellows that he'll defend them and urges everyone to keep attacking the monster. Cassius amasses a colossal energy surge, morphing into a titanic entity, barreling towards the dragon with a stern warning echoing in its wake. The crowd erupts in awe as Cassius displays his prowess, urging relentless assault against the beast. With an almighty swing, he aims to cleave it asunder, pondering if this tactic could subdue the monster. The dragon locks eyes with Cassius, emanating a hint of displeasure. In a moment's pause, she recalls past incidents where food-related calamities seemed to follow her, muttering beneath her breath about Cassius being a perpetual troublemaker. She scolds Cassius with a dismissive wave of her hand, branding him as annoying. In a flash, he crumples to the ground, striking his head hard, leaving everyone in disbelief. With a flick of her wrist, she swats him aside effortlessly. A single blow from the dragon shatters Cassius's armor, and even his mana fails to faze her. They can scarcely believe that a powerhouse like Cassius was knocked out by a mere dragon. Yet, even on the ground, he rallies his friends, reminding them of Salem City's backing and their determination to bring the dragon to a halt. Spurred by adrenaline, he urges them not to relent in their pursuit of the dragon. Taylor's team gathers outside a door, and he cautiously approaches, gripping the handle tightly while advising his comrades to tread carefully due to the unknown perils that lay beyond. As Ceres gently pushes open the door, it creaks loudly, causing the entire basement to tremble ominously. The team jolts, one questioning if a seismic event rocked the labyrinth. Taylor urges them to steel themselves for anything but unknowns. Another voices suspicion, stating it doesn't resemble an earthquake. Instead, she senses a hum of magic, hinting at a concealed mechanism being activated. Stunned, the group collectively grasps that their home base has vanished from the city skyline as the ground quakes once more beneath them. The city erupts in a spectacular blast, leaving everyone spellbound. One ponders aloud if the explosion was a magical surge emanating from their headquarters. Another queries the cause behind such a potent blast from their base. Roy deduces the change is due to Cirrus opening that peculiar door. Lady Diana appears woozy, nearly crumpling onto Roy's lap. One player notices Carrot and Hank falling unconscious, while another expresses concern for their C-rank teammates, fearing they can't withstand the magical aftershock from the structure. With Ceres' gang, players converse about how only a dungeon possessing such magic could merit a legendary weapon. He feels the oppressive magic and finds it downright terrifying. He thinks it's foolish to brandish a sword when the landscape has fundamentally shifted. Ceres spots the sword on the ground, with Irene signaling its location to Taylor. Spotting the blade, Taylor exclaims, recognizing it as the Slay Dragon Blade. A pang of envy flickers across Taylor's face as Cirrus miraculously appears near the sword. The sight irks him, reminding him of Cirrus' seemingly fortunate encounters. Irene mentions Cirrus is an F-rank player, which only fuels Taylor's ire. Ceres ponders wistfully about the allure of wielding such a legendary weapon. Ignoring the jeering sword, Taylor calls out to his comrades, urging them to follow him towards the weapon. With a first-come, first-served mentality, he decides he can't let Cirrus have the upper hand. The sword seems restless with so many spectators gathering, almost as if it were an overcrowded party. Ceres stands awestruck before the sword, his gaze lingering on its unsheathed form. The blade chides him for staring so boldly, feeling bare and vulnerable without a scabbard. Enough! The sword snaps, threatening to exert some pressure if Ceres doesn't avert his eyes. The stern rebuke leaves Ceres flabbergasted, wondering how such an inanimate object could possess a voice. Surprised yet intrigued, Ceres feels the sword's forceful presence and wonders if such a simple object could possess personality. The pressure builds within the sword until it bursts forth, unleashing a torrent of power that shatters even the toughest armor and sends players sprawling. Ceres' teammate fills him in on the chaos unfolding as disbelief spreads among the spectators, marveling at the sheer magnitude of mana energy. Taking a moment to survey the scene, Taylor feels a weight settle upon his chest. It was no picnic for anyone involved. The air around him thickens, making each breath laborious, as if he's wading through hot lead. Even Ceres is grappling with the mana's might. His comrade queries if they dare approach the Slay Dragon blade, pondering potential risks. The sword's spirit admires Ceres' resilience, holding his ground against its force. Banlier murmurs that those capable of withstanding such pressure and still move might just claim the sword. Banlier comforts him, stating the sword has been dormant, thus posing minimal danger. Yet, the sword contradicts, alerting that anyone venturing too near risks a world of pain. Ceres is taken aback, glancing at Bella and questioning if she senses anything amiss. Bella proposes it might be the mana's intensity clouding Ceres' perception. Taylor bounds over to Ceres, attributing his mental hiccups to the pressure. Boasting about his superior stamina, he claims Ceres is no match for him. Roy encourages Ceres, asserting that being first to draw the sword increases chances of success, thus Ceres can't afford to lag behind. Taylor jeers at Ceres, labeling an F-rank player like him unworthy of wielding the Slay Dragon blade. Bella sprints towards Taylor, warning him against jumping conclusions, but Ceres stops her, instructing her to steer clear. Upon crossing the line and nearing the sword, it reacts, bellowing for Taylor to retreat. Buttery-fingered Taylor disregards the warning and fancies a daring display, hoping to steal the limelight and humble Ceres in front of Bella. The exasperated sword spirit delivers another eye roll to Taylor, sternly cautioning him against handling her hilt. As Taylor extends his hand, overlooking Ceres, the sword's voice echoes, "Not feeling too charming today, are we?" before giving him a swift kick. Swinging her leg, she sends him packing, maintaining a safe distance from the blade. Taylor yelps in pain as he's hurled backwards, his screams mingling with the sword's mana's mighty roar. His pals are flabbergasted, and one of them hollers out for their captain, Taylor. With a chuckle, he quips that it's incredible their fearless leader took a dive from the sword. She grumbles about humans being unchanging, expressing her disdain towards their presence. Ceres scrutinizes the blade while the sword spirit sighs at humanity, asking them to lighten up. Cognizant of his close call, Ceres acknowledges that his A-rank scale armor had been his savior the entire time. Taylor surveys the damage, remarking on how easily his armor, crafted from deep-sea materials, succumbed to the impact. The other players murmur in awe over the sword's antics. One asks about the secret to drawing it safely, while others deem it a blunder for Taylor as the Slay Dragon blade refused him its embrace. The team is bantering about the living Slay Dragon blade. They ponder who among them has the durability to withstand its attack, wondering who dares approach it next. Taylor clarifies that legendary weapons are only for those passing the Slay Dragon blade trial, chuckling at himself. Perplexed, his teammates ask what's got him giggling. Stepping forward bravely, Taylor asserts he's qualified, an A-rank warrior who survived its trial. Roaring at the sword, Taylor declares its excitement should be evident, but the spirit remains unimpressed. The spirit snaps back at Taylor, expressing disdain for his arrogance and hinting that taking him down herself would bring great satisfaction, suggesting he's no match for the sword. Swiveling to Ceres, Taylor taunts him, claiming the Slay Dragon blade has taken a liking to him instead. Quietly, Ceres muses that perhaps the blade aims to eliminate him personally. The sword spirit acknowledges Ceres' insight, whispering her agreement. In a flash, Taylor lunges to seize the sword before the spirit realizes it. Distracted, she hadn't noticed his approach. Grabbing the sword, Taylor feels a surge of mana pressure, his armor creaking under the strain. The spirit swiftly points out that he's actually got her by the neck instead. A hush falls as everyone watches Taylor, unsure if he can truly master the Slay Dragon blade. Grabbing the sword, Taylor cries out at the immense power surging through him, a storm assaulting his very being. Could this be the blade's ultimate trial? He wonders aloud. The spirit screeches in pain, fighting to break free from Taylor's grasp. Enraged and overwhelmed, the sword spirit vents its frustration, accusing everyone of their mistreatment. Determined, Taylor clenches the sword tighter, aiming to seize control. The crowd roars for Taylor, their cheers echoing hope for a city savior. Suddenly, the tension shifts and whispers ripple through the crowd. They claim the blade has ceased its assault, offering a chance for victory without great risk. In hushed tones, some murmur that an S-rank player like Taylor has no need to prove himself. They urge Captain Taylor to seize the Slay Dragon Blade. Dandler frowns, doubting if Taylor truly deserves this honor. Meanwhile, Taylor's mind is focused solely on Bella, his grip tightening further. He knows in his heart that he, not Cirrus, is the chosen one for the blade. Bella furrows her brow, displeased as the crowd hails Taylor a hero. Her anger stirs because Ceres was meant to be first, but Taylor outpaced him to the sword instead. The Slay Dragonblade's spirit, initially puzzled by the applause for Taylor, starts to question its choice. Ceres swiftly corrals his comrades, recognizing a brewing storm. Bella queries the situation and Ceres alerts them, whispering that the Slay Dragonblade's fury is palpable. The team senses the mounting turbulence as the Slay Dragon Blade erupts in a chaotic outburst of potent mana energy. Taylor grimaces under the sword's spirit's relentless barrage, feeling anguish coursing through his crown. A collective gasp fills the air as the sword's powerful aura pulses toward Taylor, who screams in torment and disbelief at his worsening state. Shy yet resolute, the sword's spirit delivers a vicious roundhouse kick. Iron catches wind of the impending mana onslaught and bellows a warning that it's targeted right at Taylor. Fear-stricken, he ducks behind Taylor and pleads for salvation. In response, Bandolier leaps to their defense, masterfully steering the attack with only one hand. Bandolier throws caution to the wind, employing every trick in his arsenal while Irene remains frozen in astonishment at Taylor's chilly demeanor. Dodge, he does, causing a quake that echoes around. The sword's magic intensifies, pounding those nearby. Remarkably, the spirit takes notice of Bandolier, intrigued by his durability. She observes his armor, miraculously healed, acting as a protective barrier for humans and showcasing his strength as an elite A-rank warrior. The crew notices his fortitude and unscathed armor intact. One of them acknowledges him as an A-rank warrior, quite the feat. He delegates care for the wounded players to the lower ranks while keeping the higher echelons by his side. Eyes wide, they spring into action. Taylor's squad insists on retreating due to escalating danger. Bandolier harnesses his powers and transforms. He proclaims himself as humanity's mightiest defender. Bracing for impact, he shouts a perfect pairing. With a confident stride, he marches towards the sword, believing it to be the world's strongest. In a flash, the sword spirit lifts her leg, poised to strike Bandolier. With unwavering resolve, Bandolier dashes towards the fabled blade, weaving through its enchanted onslaught. Onlookers from Salem City's guild roared in support, proclaiming him their final beacon, urging him to demonstrate human superiority to the Slay Dragonblade. Unfazed by the sword spirit's escalating magical barrage, Banlu deftly dodged every attack, inch by inch closing in on his quarry. All her powers seemed to falter against Banlu's agility. With a firm grip, Banlu asserted his right to wield the legendary weapon. The sword spirit resisted, launching another strike aimed at denying him possession. This time, however, her attack connected squarely on Bandolier, shattering his armor and leaving an impression on his visage, drawing blood. An audible gasp echoed across the battlefield as the force of the blow left Bandolier reeling, marking him significantly. Confused, Bandolier perceived pain from the strike, unaware that the sword spirit hadn't struck him directly. His team rushed to his side, calling out to their comrade, their concern evident in their voices. Bandolier tells them to back off and pushes them away. One says the Slay Dragonblade has fully awakened, leaving no chance for them to win. Bandolier tells them they must defeat the sword. But the players are surprised since S-rank armor can't withstand its magical power. Bandolier insists they must defeat it as it's their only chance to become powerful and bring honor to the Slay Dragon Blade. The members whisper that they'll have to fight until their last breath. Bandolier tells them they're warriors and must face challenges for Salem City's sake. He questions why they're hesitant. He becomes aggressive, stating that any player who refuses to fight will be considered a deserter and immediately killed. Bandolier yells at the players for their pointless chatter. The sword spirit catches wind of this and whispers that the humans are aware of her powers and are scared. She picks out a blonde guy, pointing at him and saying she'll start with him if nobody moves, shoving him into the danger zone. Since the sword has a life force, the blonde dude is freaking out. He realizes the sword can sense and communicate like a person. Suddenly, he spots someone already on the battlefield and shouts at Bandolier to look. Ceres stares at the sword, remembering what the Slay Dragon spirit said when Taylor tried to grab it. The sword spirit wraps around the sword, confused about why Ceres looks at her intently. Ceres tells his system to lock onto the target and it responds. He wonders if he can connect with or bind the sword spirit using his system. A chorus of skepticism echoes among the players, questioning Siri's sanity and pondering how the F-rank captain of Squad 14 dares to claim the Slay Dragonblade. With questionable abilities and power levels, the Slay Dragonblade threatens to turn him into a pancake, yet Ceres, with unwavering resolve, declares his warriorship, vowing to safeguard Salem City from peril. Unyielding in spirit, he resolves to wield the Slay Dragonblade, even if it costs him dearly, and he meets an untimely end. Banlier shakes his head, remarking that even the feeblest players display more courage than their A-rank and B-rank counterparts. He praises Ceres' noble heart, a quality that intrigues the Slay Dragonblade's spirit, causing it to murmur an odd tickling sensation. Catching Ceres' gaze, she comments on his uniqueness among humans. The connection between them becomes too strong to resist, and she starts experiencing an unusual resonance. As Ceres inches closer, she attempts to fend him off with a swift slash, sensing the potential danger lurking nearby. The sword spirit grapples with its strange weakness, particularly in its legs, which it struggles to lift. Baffled by the Slay Dragonblade's indifference towards Ceres, the players are left astonished as Ceres stands unfazed amidst the magical aura surrounding the sword. Yet with Ceres, the sword appears unfazed, leaving everyone astonished. They recall its usual propensity for slicing anything living that ventures too near, so it's no wonder none can pluck it free. There's a growing consensus among them that perhaps the sword has fallen dormant. The sword spirit herself begins to sense a waning of her strength and impulse to strike. As she gazes upon Ceres, she senses something peculiar about him, causing this unusual emotional response. The debate continues on whether the Sword of Judgment has indeed gone dormant. Ceres' approach only serves to heighten her awareness of their connection. The players find it hard to believe the sword spirit remains unprovoked. One player muses aloud that if it is, Ceres must possess extraordinary fortune. The sword spirit struggles to maintain composure as she feels her grip weakening. Her emotions overwhelm her, but she can't keep them in check. Ceres meets her gaze directly, blood trickling from his nose. It seems unbelievable that he still stands, given his low rank and the immense power of the sword. One player spots the blood and remarks it's not due to the sword's attack. Banlier points out that Ceres is merely an F-rank hero, making it all the more perplexing that he doesn't crumble under the sword's pressure. Ceres clutches his nose, commenting this is the first time he's bled so profusely from it. Bella expresses concern for Ceres and suggests he retreat if things become too precarious, but he silences her with a gesture. 2111. Ceres, resolute, vows to safeguard Salem City, regardless of the obstacles ahead. 2112. The sword spirit, however, finds herself oddly captivated by Ceres, a sensation bordering on disarray, as if she yearns to reveal more to him. 2113. She confesses to feeling flustered, her heart pounding like a nervous drummer, her chest fluttering like a startled sparrow. 2114. Amidst this whirlwind of emotions, she recognizes she can't yield to her bashful tendencies. 2115. The sword spirit, in an attempt to regain composure, warns Ceres to avert his gaze, fearing exposure if he continues to stare. 2116. Baffled by Ceres' proximity to the sword, the players exclaim his vulnerability. The sword spirit, in response, braces herself to confront him. The crowd senses the escalating tension and roars that the Slay Dragonblade has awakened. 2117. Ceres ponders if the sword spirit still harbors the strength to strike him. 2118. With a playful touch, Ceres contemplates countering the sword's power. This move triggers an unusual sensation within the sword spirit, leaving her puzzled and off balance. 2119. As Ceres bonds with the sword spirit experiences a tickling sensation spreading through her limbs, causing her to falter and miss her mark. 2120. Then, there's a collective gasp as they witness the Slay Dragonblade's attack coming to an abrupt halt. Banlier is astonished, puzzling over Ceres' resilience, for she, an F-rank player, endures the blade unscathed, leaving his armor untouched. The sword spirit ascends amidst the fray, reflecting on a myriad of sensations, from piercing through steel to searing flames. Yet, this feeling, it's unfathomable. A strange electric current courses through her, yet a gentle tickle persists. She's overwhelmed as the sensation is unparalleled. A surging electric charge and a soft tickling grip seize her senses, leaving her in disarray. Overwhelmed, she submits, kneeling before him, conceding that she can no longer attack due to this peculiar feeling. Ceres, perceiving the moment, proclaims his intent. It's time for him to become the sword's master. The sword spirit reacts, her cheeks flushing, as she acknowledges his touch brings a ticklish response. With unwavering focus, Ceres funnels all his energy into the sword. The sword spirit can no longer resist and succumbs to her weakness. In an unexpected twist, Ceres draws forth the sword, eliciting gasps of awe from all present. The sword spirit remarks that if Ceres continues at this pace, he indeed could claim mastery over her. The players erupt in disbelief. How could a player as weak as him wield the Slay Dragon sword? Eager to draw the sword for Salem's defense, Ceres finds an unexpected hand joining his own. A phalanx of sword spirits intervenes, taking a knee and voicing their disapproval. One approaches Ceres, elucidating that wielding the Slay Dragon's sword isn't a walk in the park. Amidst the commotion, a player reminds everyone of the Sword of Judgment's reinstated prowess. The spirit feels mortified after waiting so long for a worthy wielder and finds herself powerless against Ceres' presence. She grapples with complex feelings, realizing strength alone might not suffice to claim the sword. Venting her frustration, she denounces the situation as an affront to her dignity. Struggling with a player like Ceres is humiliating, she mutters, simultaneously holding the sword. They both share a less-than-pleased expression. Yet, even while voicing her opposition, she finds herself reluctantly yielding to its pull. In her thoughts, she boils with anger, declaring that if unleashing full power would make Ceres bleed from his nose and mouth, he'd be doing so by now. Prideful, she asserts herself a flawless weapon and vows not to let emotions sway her judgment. Despite the pandemonium, she defends the sword while Ceres puts forth all his might, attempting to wrench it free. Warns the spirit that she's but a spirit, and heedless pushing could lead to Ceres' undoing. Yet Ceres persists, unyielding in his bravery and determination to shield his city, much to her dismay. Spectators hail him as a valiant soul destined for greatness, cheering him on. One commentator notes that Ceres is not one to admit defeat easily. She pauses, regaining composure, only to lose her grasp once Ceres rubs the sword. The crowd roars in support of him, leaving the spirit bewildered by his unwavering resolve. Eventually, she acknowledges the justice burning within him. Irritated, she chides that he's being excessively playful and a royal pain, specifically targeting his tickling of her armpits. Despite her discomfort, she steels herself to maintain control, refusing to let him gain the upper hand. She muses on how deep he's going, wondering if it's her or the sword that's being referred to, stirring memories of past struggles and setbacks in the spirit. This time, however, she's on the brink, barely managing to stay composed. Ceres continues to meddle with the sword, causing an odd sensation for the spirit. The once formidable energy of the spirit seems to have waned, offering Ceres a golden opportunity. With a Herculean effort, he attempts to extract the Sword of Judgment further, garnering gasps from the crowd as one spectator cheers that progress is visible. The sword spirit unleashes a torrent of mana, her gaze intense and confident, boasting she can endure any sensation thrown at her. Yet moments later, she escalates the battlefield with a cataclysmic surge of magical energy, targeting Ceres squarely. The ground splinters under the force, and as Ceres clings to the sword, the atmosphere crackles with raw mana, causing him to ponder if the sword spirit is intentionally trying to crush him to prevent the sword's removal. He hangs on for dear life, grappling with the crushing force of her power. Debris scatters and particles start to levitate, yet Ceres perseveres, tugging at the sword while evading the spirit's attacks. Gritting his teeth, he admits that the pressure is almost unbearable, feeling like his bones might shatter under the strain. Bella races to Ceres' side, swinging her sword defensively to shield Ceres from the spirit's barrage. The crowd hushes, recognizing the magnitude of the magical force unleashed. A chorus of concern arises when Bella's blade disintegrates upon contact with it. The spectators gasp, whispering about something being vaporized in the chaos. The consensus among the players is that no one can extract the sword now. Meanwhile, the system alerts Ceres that his body is on the brink of collapse due to the excessive strain. The sword spirit jeers him, challenging his strength and reminding him that the divide between their abilities is vast. She asserts his body and grip will be incapable of lifting the sword, not an inch more. She threatens him to concede defeat or face annihilation as his current efforts fall woefully short. Unyielding, Ceres claims he's overestimated his resilience. With a smirk, he keeps feather-touching the sword that incenses the sword spirit with its provocation. Determined, Ceres believes he still stands a chance if he refuses to capitulate. The sword spirit tightens her grip. He trails his finger over the sword, daring the sword spirit to persist. This time, the sword spirit experiences the sensations erratically and her concentration falters. Ceres keeps a watchful eye on her movements. The sword spirit encounters the feelings unexpectedly, causing her focus to dwindle. She is adamant in thwarting Ceres. The immense power of the sword returns and the players advise maintaining distance and retreating. Bella succumbs under pressure and crumples to the ground. Despite his fingers aching, Ceres persists with gentle caresses on the sword. The sword spirit is perplexed by Ciri's resilience, seemingly unfazed by its immense power, tickling instead. She questions if justice and responsibility burn within Ciri's, shouting for him to halt as she edges closer to losing control. He gives the sword another tickle, asking if she can now sense it. The spirit feels those sensations once more, only to realize that the sword is altering. The players catch sight of an unusual occurrence around the sword, prompting one of them to holler about what's emerging from the ground. The sword ascends, revealing itself as the slave dragon sword, leaving the spirit red-faced since she had attempted to prevent this very action. Ciri seizes the sword and places it gently on the floor, astounding the players. They comprehend that an F-rank player like Ciri's has summoned the slave dragon sword.